I actually come from a family of artists. But from my mom's side, she has 4 siblings that are all professional artists, but she isn't. So she always felt like it kind of skipped her, but then her daughter, 8 daughters, by the way, oldest of 8. But I had, you could tell from a young age, I love to draw and I'm very creative. Twin sister, math brain, opposites completely. I was a crazy, creative one, let's just put it that way. And so, but I just always loved to draw. But in high school, I never had time really, because high school is so filled with other things like student government and fire and band, believe it or not. And so I never had time to fit art in my schedule. Until my senior year, I was doodling in homeroom, and my homeroom teacher happened to be an art teacher. And he saw my drawing and he's like, "Why have you never taken my art class?" Like, I don't know. I never thought about it. So my senior year, semester. Sorry. Sorry, Jen. No worries. So basically, teachers have such influence on students, and it's just amazing for good and bad. And in this particular case, that high school teacher affected the rest, my trajectory path of what my career became later. And I dedicated everything to him, because after I decided to capture that one class, and every project I did, he was like, "Class, look at this. I want you to draw like Jennifer." Like, really? I mean, it's one thing for your family to have the talent, and then to think that you're artistic and not autistic. I said artistic. But then to really have someone outside of your family recognize the potential of that, it just changed everything. So in college, I majored in art, started from, scratch almost, because I was going up against all these other students that had years and years of art classes. It was so exciting to me to have found something that I really enjoyed. And believe it or not, was nothing like what I do now. Like back then, it was all portraits, realistic, oils, like figurative. Never even did a landscape after I graduated. So I graduated, like, you know what? I want to do something fun. It's portraits. No offense. Okay, moving around. For me, I just wanted to be able to have the freedom to put a tree, for example, anywhere I wanted, or flowers. And that first landscape painting, there was no turning back. And from there, it became textures, and I found my niche, lived in San Francisco, and that's kind of where it grew from there. And we're talking about that, but that's basically in a nutshell how it all started. Excellent. Thank you. All right, Gedion, let's hear from you.
Thank you, Susan, for having me, and thank you guys for having me. I was born and raised by an artist. My father is a second-generation artist coming from Zimbabwe.
Can you hold your microphone closer to your...
My father is a second-generation artist from Zimbabwe. I'm originally from Zimbabwe. Born by an artist and raised by him, I grew up feeding on what he was doing and liking to be like him, and wanted to be side by side with my father when he was doing what he was doing. At an early stage, I became a very troublesome boy by getting in my dad's studio every now and then and take some tools from where he has sharpened those chisels. And with that knowledge, using those chisels on a very hard stone and breaking some of them. So it landed me in trouble. But all this was driven happiness and wanting to be like him. So he taught me when he found out that there was so much in his tools, as well as if we go to head cattle in the fields, we'll take some clay and make some sculptures from there and create some sculptures which we will then end up firing and doing that from nowhere, because my dad was doing stone, wood, and metal. This he got it from his father. So that's why I say my dad is a second generation, because my grandfather was a blacksmith. So only metal, and he was doing usable tools or pieces of art which people can use, like some assegais and bows and arrows and those things he was making it. A lot of people know him in the area because of that, and they were coming in to exchange cows and goats for axes and bows and arrows. Because this was a very essential, just like you guys here, you have guns. Back there, he was making guns himself from nowhere with the metal and everything, and he became very famous from doing that. And also making these hunting tools like the arrows and all that, he was making the best. So the kids running in the family, I would say that. But however, I grew up doing all this in class, in my school when I was in the primary level. I was picked in the class to do to draw all the charts the teachers can put in the walls for the whole class. So I was given all that as a homework all the time because I was very good doing that. But my dad then told me as I was progressing with my art, he told me you have to pick one thing out of all the materials you have in front of you. You have metal, wood, and stone, and you have clay as well. So you pick one and become number one in it. So I decided to do stone. And he says to me, are you sure? Because stone is challenging. And stone, once you take off, you cannot bring it back. Are you sure you're going to do this? I said, through watching you, I think I can. So he let me be and he taught me how to do that. And I learned my career from my dad and from what he was doing. And later, he said, when the college level came into play, he said, what do you want to be? I said, I want to be an artist like you. He says, no, you cannot be an artist just like that without having a career to fall back on. Art is hard to live off of. So if you're planning to have a family, you're planning to have kids, you need to have another career which you can go to college for. So I picked auto mechanic, specializing in diesel engines, and I did that. And when I graduated, I worked for Delta Company in Zimbabwe, Delta Company with their big trucks, delivering those which delivers Coca-Cola and all these drinks in the rural areas. And every time I would get a call in the midst of the night as I'm sleeping, we had a breakdown coming over, and it's raining outside. I had to jump in my car to go and rescue that truck there. And I'm like, no, I want freedom. The only way I can have freedom is to go and do what I love to do most, which is art. So I picked stone, and after graduation and worked for 1 year for Delta, I said, Dad, I want to bring out my boots and I want to join you. It was like, you're welcome. You qualified because you did that. So I want you can come. So here's what he did for me, which was very difficult for me. He counted stones from his pile of stones. I thought it was a lot for him, but he counted stones, he counted tools on that. And he said, it is out of these stones and these tools which is going to define you to be an artist or not. You're not going to touch my stones, you're not going to touch my tools, you use yours. It is out of what you get out of this, which shall make you to go and get more tools and more stones for yourself. I had to spend my hand. Like, okay, what best plan to do? I carved all the stones there, and I said, I'm not going to sell nothing at the moment. After carving all the sculptures I had, I went to Standard Chartered Bank, which is the Zimbabwe bank in there. Standard Chartered Bank, they used to hold exhibits, but it was only for established artists. But I said, I want to go there and try to talk to them. I said, I want to do a show with you. I said, no, you're too young, we cannot do this. We have no schedule for you. I put on my pictures, I showed them. He says, maybe if I can see the sculptures in person. I said, I have a bag, I can go get it. And I brought my bag, which I had gotten in a bus and walked almost half an hour to get to the bag where I wanted to. And then I showed the pieces, the 3 pieces I had. He called his staff and said, what do you think? Then they said, yes, we can take you and we can exhibit your work in the foyer. I was so happy from there. So they say, go prepare, we give you, this was sometime in May, and they say by September, when we are ready to show you where we want you to be there. So I did. And guess what? I had 27 pieces ready. Because I went back to my dad and said, this is what I'm going to do, I need more. So he gave me. And I was so lucky. The night of the opening of the show, there were some promoters from London in town to buy sculptures from Zimbabwean artists. And I was on the TV and in the newspaper to advertise for this show. They showed up the same night of the opening. Out of 27, I saw 22 that night. That was the beginning of everything for me. And they offered, because I shared their story with them, they offered to take me to London and do one-man show, buy me a truckload of stones, buy me some tools from London for me to carve. It was from then my world opened up.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh my God. That is so awesome. So great. Gedion, you are, and we'll maybe talk about this later, you are a citizen of the USA now.
Yes.
Which was a big day. I remember when you got your green card. It was very exciting. You worked hard for that. So congratulations and wow.
Thank you so
We
much.
were blessed. We were blessed. So. Okay, we're gonna learn more about the tools and how and what they do to these beautiful stones and talk about your stones in a minute. But let's hear from our very nervous friend Trevor.
Very, yes. I'm kind of sweaty after that story.
I get nervous about your people touching your stuff.
Well, I am nervous about that, but it's out of nobody's breathing on it. But this is a little warm up here. I'm a little nervous here, but I can just move it to the side. If I need to, we're okay. Everything's okay. Don't even point at it. Don't even. But it's interesting that you do have another team here. I also come from a family of artists. My great-grandfather was a painter, skipped a generation. My dad and my uncle were both painters. So it's something growing up in it, they told me the same type of thing. I'm infamous for trying finance. So I was going to be a finance major in school. And I took the same algebra class, Math 106, 3 times, and took a special tutor to actually get me to pass that. And at that point, my wife to be at that point said, maybe you shouldn't do, maybe math isn't your thing, maybe you should do something else. But it was one of those, and I think my mom had known all along that art was definitely in my blood, and it was there. But growing up in a family of artists, that's one of the first things they said. It's hard to raise a family. They knew immediately they wanted to be a family guy. Family's important, but they said it's such a hard way to make a living. But with them as examples, it was one of those things that it really just fit, and it clicked. When it was finally time to kind of make that decision to go forward, really did, have this that dedicate yourself to their passion. But one of the early messages they see, you're going to see in their work, find something that inspires you, all of that, paint that, and you will never struggle for something. Every piece will be something that's a challenge for you, but it's a challenge you give the right to because it's something that you love, something that you're passionate about. I love nature, I love the outdoors, I love critters, I love scenery, flowers. So that's kind of what I always follow, and then it gets to my sickness. I mean, this is kind of an intervention, right?
We don't want to stop you from what you've got going on. Come on. So I'm just going to say, again, I couldn't pick any artists here, but these three, especially this one on the end. No, I am in awe of his paintbrush collection. So when I was thinking about who she talks about their tools, well, we all know the most important tools are the hands. And as Trevor said, the vision. But the brushes are amazing, the chisels are amazing, the palette knives are amazing, but in your hands, they become miraculous. So let's go ahead, Trevor, with you and talk a little bit about your obsession and why you have so many different paintbrushes and why it's necessary.
Okay, so I'm going to boil it down to two things: push and pull. So what I do is, let me just give you a little bit of the, on the technique, and I do have some that are in here. They are feedback, but they're not part of the rest of the group. Well, it's a whole family. It's a very much a family thing. Everybody's so let's just start off. They do not have names. They all have their special pen. Each one goes back into a special pen. And there is a rumor, it's true, they do take them home for a spa night every night. They get a gentle massage with Dawn soap and lukewarm water. Each of these is still conditioned with an olive oil. I spend more time with these than I do with my family, which is sad but true. So early on, I learned that you find what works to follow your vision. When you have a vision, what you want to portray, find whatever it takes to get to that point. So what you see up here are a lot of oil painting brushes, but a lot of different brushes as well. I've got watercolor brushes that I use not in the style of any kind of watercolor. Sorry, it's good. So what I have found that I want to do, and you can see in my work up here that I'm really focusing on detail. Detail is what's really important. That's what really brings it to life for me, is that last stage where everything is all come together. You set all this stuff up, and it's almost like I equate it to building a puzzle. If you get that satisfaction of having that last puzzle piece go in, that's a lot of what I'm doing when I'm creating a piece. I can see it here, I can see it on paper, and it starts to develop. That you're building all the framework, building all the foundation, building that structure, and then when it all comes together, that last little piece just almost takes your breath away still to this day, after 30 some years of doing this. So what I've found is that I use all these different tools, and I do use every one of these guys. So each one has a specific thing it's going to do. And some of them they're ancient at this point. There's brushes that I've had here for 10 years, and it really is the one job that I was ever required from construction. But one of the lessons I learned from that little stint in that career is you take really good care of your tools. Taking care of them, they will take care of you. So what I've got up here is a wide variety of interesting different brushes that are used for all kinds of different things. And you'll see I even have some cheap stuff from Home Depot, $2.99 brushes that are amazing because you can do, they'll never discount what's something cheap and small and all these different things, but the textures of those three are just amazing. So the other thing that I have as far as tools, a razor blade. This is kept handy right by next to me all the time. And it's totally a clipper. It's not gross, it's actually for these. Because one of the things that it's like I found that there's a hesitancy when somebody has a brush. You feel like, okay, this thing needs to be, whoever made it is, they know what they're doing, all the pieces are there, whatever it needs to be. But it doesn't, it's your tool at this point. You need to condition it, do whatever you want to with it. With this pair of pliers, it's got to be all over it. What I do, especially with some of the hair patterns, the different things, is I squeeze the brush down and crimp it and I cut it. So this used to be a very big brush, but at this point it's down to the little bristles inside of it, really the work portion of the whole thing. So it's like using a razor blade, get down to the pieces, what's actually what we do, and all that other stuff doesn't get in your way. I use these called hockey brushes. They're, again, a watercolor tool, but everything is a little bit slimy because I really do conditioning work every day with all of them. So everything they use is also natural fibers. The synthetic fibers don't really give you that bounce or that play or the movement. I can count on these day after day after day. And the most recent discovery, they actually have their own can. They're very special. They are very special. These are made out of horsehair. They're actually made for their Chinese writing brushes. So they're Hoboku stroke brushes. You see them using people on calligraphy and some of the different delicate things. The horsehair, its horsetail hair is very, very shiny. So I can get these to do a beautiful soft one, or I can flatten them out and make a beautiful soft feather pattern. Or again, some of the bigger ones, I can get those to flatten out and pull a lot of moisture in the paint. I can actually use those to make a really soft fur pattern. I use the same brush for hair. Same thing for a flower or a bird. So I've never met a brush that didn't bite. And I'm a regular at the art store. Nope. Okay, here he is. All I do is just have been first. Just to make sure I'm not making something cheap. But I can never walk into an art store without walking into a handful of brushes.
I understand.
There's worse things to be addicted to, I swear.
Yeah, no, I think many of us can understand that concept. Question for you.
Yes.
Well, question, Jennifer, is he like this with everything or just the brushes?
I think it's just favorite part.
Just the brushes, okay. So, I think we'd all be fascinated to know, you work on multiple different surfaces, but behind you, you have a canvas
Sure, yes.
and copper.
Yeah, so about 8 years ago, 9 years ago, I had been working on traditional mediums, wood and canvas for years and years. And actually kind of fell into it by accident working with another friend of mine that I discovered there's a guy doing tubes for use on steel and copper that are a different formulation than what is used on bronze. The key is normally used on bronze, you see it all the time. But with a different formulation to it, he was creating these different colors. And it's just something I love these colors. They're very much in my world of color. And you can see here, this is a good representation of some of the different tones you can get. And all this background was created. And even this frame is a piece of metal and a patina. So it's making, sorry.
So the background of the copper is that you apply it
Yeah. So it's under
with a brush, or do you kind of pour it on and then you
whatever,
heat it with a torch?
yeah, however you want to get it on.
Okay, the brushes come later.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so I actually do have brushes that are now, when they do fall out of the, in my cans here, they do go to the patina brushes. So it's a little bit like working in the graveyard and guys. We still work, but they do get it in the getting burnt and then you have to throw it away.
Oh, no.
Jennifer doesn't know that, I've got a little box in the backyard. So I don't actually throw them away, they do get buried. I've got a little brush graveyard out there. Right, they're going back to their, going back to my inspiration, it's sort of like. So apply this with a torch, either a spray bottle, a brush, so the metal is heated to about 200 degrees, and that's when the acids interact with the metal at that magic point. So it's hot, it's sticky, it's stinky. And people want to do it point blank. Fire and smoke and smells like rotten eggs. This is beautiful man art. But out of that, all this stuff comes with beautiful colors. This is fantastic texture with all these things. And that's one of the reasons that really gave me the impetus to start the show, start working on the celebration. I had to be doing I had something interesting. I had this whole new venue to talk about. And so there are tools that I'm using to display my vision. And it's been fantastic.
And do you use the same brushes on the canvas as you do on the copper?
I do. Yeah, because it's, again, what I know how to paint is oil. I know how to work oil paint, I know how it moves, I know how it feels, how long it takes to dry. So I'm going to do that. Once I have this surface built, then I can do the oil paint on top of there, again, using the same techniques. It's a little different, it's very slippery at that very first stage. So you end up almost using paint as a primer. And then the detail on top of that is even more delicate. It's smaller because there's no texture other than the texture that I built on this model. It's the smoothest surface that I've ever painted on, so if you find that you incredible, soft, fine little detail. Okay, cactus needles kind of fade into nothing. It's so small because there's no texture to work. So I find it's like each surface kind of gives me a different avenue of that presentation, that again, that going back to that vision, what do I want to use? Using it as a canvas, there's going to be something on that.
That is wonderful. I'm sure we'll be back with some questions for you later. By the way, the caution tape, it's all about the brushes.
Well,
There's not been an accident.
it's actually more for your safety than it is for brushes. I do freak out.
I do think you'll be allowed to peer at them, but don't touch them.
Has anybody had tea with lots of citrus for lunches? No orange juice, please. You're welcome to come up and visit. Acid really does break them all. Let's just be really careful. Very respectful, okay?
I was so not pointing the finger there. Right?
Okay.
You're like
Next question.
You're like the opposite of me, by the way.
Yes.
I
Two different
Which is like
worlds.
the perfect segue. Let's jump over.
You know, the greatest thing about this show is that, well, sorry, if you go home tonight, you think through society my brush collection. Amazing.
Oh, yeah, it's like, okay, now we know. All right, so Jen.
I just can't end what you want. I have to speak.
Like you're the light in my darkness, is that what you're saying?
Oh my goodness, Trevor, these are my tools, all of them, right? They're not even clean.
No.
This is it. I will just scrape that out.
It's okay. Don't.
No pressure.
That's why we're here.
And Trevor,
No, it works.
this sponge, this cheap sponge. My secret ingredient. Background on my canvas is no staple brush needed. It's $1.99. No bath. I mean, it's still crusty from today's painting. I know all of oil.
No salt.
I don't let it dry. I'll use this part, and then I'll use this part, and then I'll flip it over, and use the back side, and then I'll throw it in the trash. In the trash. But I love that. That we all have our different things and artists that kind of about this is more grounded. Everyone has their own method.
So I just don't know the microphone. Thank you.
Their own method of creating art, and it's just amazing to me. So let me just backtrack real quick. So we're in the San Francisco days. That's why I was in San Francisco trying to sell my portraits in with the guild out in the open air every weekend, and I wasn't making any sales. Month after month, 3 little kids thinking, okay, I have a degree, how am I going to actually be able to use my degree and sell art? And it just wasn't working for me, and I didn't know what to do. And then I started just talking to everybody that would come through Union Square and Washington Square and all the places in San Francisco. And it was interesting to me that everyone I talked to, they said, I love color, I love texture, landscape, all the things. And I love color, I love texture. And I thought about it, like every time I walk into a gallery or art museum, I'm always attracted to be straight for the image with the most texture. And we took a little trip to Amsterdam, that's when and walked to the Van Gogh Art Museum. Have any of you had a chance? Yes, it's amazing.
It's a.
To see Van Gogh in person, it was like changing from there. That's incredible. How did he get that texture on there? So I decided I was going to figure that out. Threw all my stable brushes away. Right in the trash. And I went to the art store. What'd you say?
You have a donation for it.
And I didn't know how to do colonize at that time, but I went to the art store, I picked every shape, size, oh my goodness, who knew there were so many shapes and sizes to colonize. I grabbed one of each, and then I just started experimenting. I'm like, okay, I know you guys just load up the paint, and I want to try some landscape. For me, landscape was scarier than a portrait. Because with a portrait, you have just face, and you can do a great background and whatnot. But thinking about a landscape, having to do like foreground and background, I remember being really intimidated by that at first. But I was determined, so I kept practicing, and then I think finally I got one after like hundreds of attempts. I'm like, nope, this isn't working. I got one poppy field that I kind of sort of liked. So I decided to bring that poppy field out to the Union Square show the following weekend just to see what happens. So I had my portraits and then brought that one poppy field. And lo and behold, within an hour, that poppy sold. And I remember for like $350. And I remember calling my, I can't believe I sold a painting. I was so excited. Yes, go ahead.
It's a real working out, but
and that proved to me that that's kind of where my soul left to, and I'm just happier after painting that way. So over the years, I figured out these are the actual palettes that I use for everything. one is for the trunks. For the trunks of the trees. I scoop it up. Whenever I have to clean it, no smog, big with my colonize. I don't have that kind of time. It's all fast.
Oh, and I would love to see your jars of paint. Oh, well, you can go see it after, but she uses big, how many jars of acrylic paint do you get up there a lot? That alone is a work of art, all the jars and the palettes. So carry on.
Yeah. Later. This is my leaf one. I start off large, so Trevor and I are pretty much opposite. Like his fine detail is amazing. But it gives me a panic attack. I was like, wow, the detail is incredible. I slap on the fast. This is the first layer, large. Then the second layer goes on top. So building out layers. And then the fine tuning, see, they're all kind of circular, but round shapes. This is not a spoon, it literally is
The spoon.
Then that's where the fine tuning, a little highlight, please. And so each one of this, this is my favorite, number 7. It has sharper points, so I use this for all of the foreground stuff. Anytime I'm doing like a meadow of flowers or any kind of brush kind of stuff, not brushes, I mean like forest brush. Yeah. But this, and I have to tell you something, we as artists here, we learn so much from each other. And for me, I was like the only artist in my town that I knew about. I made painting alone in my studio, and then 14 years ago, that was my first year here. Wow, all of these artists in the same boat trying to support their families and professional artists. I could not even believe it. It was so exciting to see and talk to them and become friends, family, and we share different techniques. And this came from Harry Henry, actually, many years ago, the sponge technique. Because before that, I was using brushes and taking a lot of time just brushing on the
What is a bad thing?
I'm not really. I've never seen a full of girls brushes. But it's just taking a lot of time for the background to be one of the brushes. So Harry Henry actually gave me the idea to use a sponge. Really? Just a little sponge? Yeah, seriously, just, you don't want to spend all your time on the background. Great. Grab a sponge, sure enough, more than half the time, and you're saving me just using the sponge. Like, that was one of those tricks that changed a lot of the way that I painted. And so I did it back to Harry Henry. And that's part of the show, is that we do share different things and learn together, and it's just been amazing at learning. So that's kind of where that'll start every year, kind of get bigger. Where, oh, by the way, baby wipes are amazing. Amazing. Yes. Baby wipes. Go to Costco.
For palette.
Yes. It's a little spot. They go to Costco. Although this is too hard and crusty at this point to use the baby wipe. But usually if the paint is wet, I'll just grab a baby wipe and wipe off the peach. So easy. Takes about 5 seconds. And then, really quick, so after I started using all this texture, I was mixing on a glass palette and peeling up all this paint the next day after it dried, and I'm like, this is so beautiful. What can I do with this? Like, I just was getting obsessed with the scrapings. And Frank actually coined the term now that I call post-palette art. Isn't that a great title? That doesn't follow me. I was calling it like palette mosaic or something like, no, Jen, post-palette art. Like, yes! So, that's post-palette art. And it's been very popular. So that Saguaro is completely built out of my paint skins that you would normally throw away. I keep in 100% built. It's like almost like people will put it together, building it out. So that's kind of a fun little fact. Thank you, Father Frank, for that. Post-palette art. I pay royalties now.
How do you players about what's that hurt? How do you make it all stick together?
I use my gel medium, the same medium that I mix in with my paint. I do like, oils has a little gloss shine that I like. So I achieve that similar look by putting a little gloss gel in with my paint. That same gel medium acts like a glue. And so I coat each piece as I go it out and it's 1 minute. And it dries. It takes so much longer to do those than just to paint. They're so fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Great. I'm thrilled to hear all the technique you do, guys. I am here for that because well, you guys, you build, you put on, you paint, and you rub it off, you put it here. You take your laser, you cut off, and you put it here. And if you put too much, what do you use? It color graph, take out?
No, I just lay right over the top of that.
Here's my challenge. I get a rock, a piece of rock. And the piece of rock is no sculpture, it's all because I have my vision in my head to make a welcome piece. The piece which says welcome. I go around the heap of my stones and I pick the one which is very close in form to what I want to make. Why? Because I don't want to take a huge piece of stone to make a small sculpture like this. So I will go, if I want to make a small piece, this size, I go and look for the stone which is close to the size I want to make that sculpture. I will pick the stone which has its natural form close to what I have in my mind to make, which looks like what I want to make. Number two, I'm blanking my head, I wake up, and I'm looking and I feel like I want to work or I don't want to work. And then all of a sudden, as I'm looking around the stones, boom, that one screams at me. It looks like a welcome piece. I pick it up and I see that vision and I see it's looking good. I turn it around, still welcome is showing me a dominant piece out of what I'm looking at. Guess what I do? I give in. I decide to melt myself, get into the stone, feel which parts needs to be shaped off and cut off in order for me to have my welcome piece. The only way to do that is when I keep my vision of what I want to make. Then I look at the stone. Up here, I focus on the vision of what I want to make, but I switch it to all the parts which do not belong to that vision. That's my target. I go knock off all those pieces which doesn't make my welcome look welcome. I dig in, cut off all the parts. I'm subtracting, by the way. I'm not adding. And here's the challenging part is if I cut off too much, I cannot put it back. I cannot put it back. And it changes the perception and the outlook of the piece. So I have to be careful. I have to know what tool to use, how much effort to exert on my hammer. This is the driver. This is the man. This is the force. It's a hammer. And it has two sides where you don't have to think what you pick it up. You just use it. There's a British hammer right here, which is round. Which when you pick a piece, you don't have to look which side is flat or what. You just take the chisel. I have what we call chasing hammer. A chasing hammer is a tool with some holes at the end. This is to level all the grooves which will be being caused by the needle tool, which is the punch. This is the major tool in making and forming a sculpture, the centerpiece, where it digs in all the parts which are not needed, being driven by the hammer. After using the punch and the hammer, I change there and I use what we call claw chisel. It has all teeth at the end of it. This is kind of leveling all the grooves which were made by the punch, the needle. Those grooves which it digs in, this levels it. Not leveling it to a point where it's good enough to be flat and smooth. Therefore, I use chisel, flat sharp, to shave off all the grooves caused by the punch, caused by the chasing hammer, caused by the claw chisel. So I'm getting closer to the smooth. Not good enough. I have a file which I use to rust and file to get closer to smoothness. After all this, hey, I have some tools which are looking like Jennifer's spoon, but it's not a spoon. That's a gouge chisel, which is kind of like a gouge. This is for designing some edges or moving in some places where you cannot get in, but you want it to be more round, and this is the chisel we use. I have much more small chisels. They have a special tip embedded inside for the hard stones, for granite, for basalt, for springstone, opal. They cut like a razor blade. And it's often, you don't often sharpen it. You sharpen it once, it goes for a long time before it gets blunt. These are the tools, the major tools which create the piece itself. But the major tool behind the sculpture is from here, the vision of what you see. To translate that vision into seeable object, to be able to transform the vision you are seeing here for all of you to see what was I thinking when I was working with this. It's all by these tools, but with the focus of keeping your eyes and not changing on what you do, because the piece evolves. It can take you its way, but you have to stay true to what you have seen, which fits into the stone. So, this piece of sculpture, from here, it went down here, and it went down there. It was almost like what it is. It was very minimal to take off from what it is right now. The most I took off was underneath the hand and down here. But otherwise, this was just like that from the beginning, the natural form. So I have three methods of making a sculpture. One is when I use the natural form of the stone to pick up a subject from it, because it looks like a bird or it looks like something. That's one method. There's the second method that I have my own vision or my dream, and I say, oh, or I see people walking and I see how they are. I see how she's leaning towards him a little bit, and that makes me happy, and I think, oh, that's good to do. I go and look for a stone which is very close in the form of how that they look, and I get that sculpture made out of that. And there is the third way. He comes in, could you make me an elephant? Then I know exactly how an elephant will be. You want an abstract elephant or you want a realistic one? Therefore, from there, it makes me pick the type of stone I should use as well. So, whatever you see, in most cases, we have consistency as artists to be called by your name when they see your work. Mine is a little difficult because I'm kind of all over because I follow the shape of the stone. And a lot of people were telling me, around me, you know you. They say, don't call yourself. do something different. So I'm that kind where I do, and next time I do another, and I do another, but I still can keep myself within the line where I have my trademark, which is a line of my work, which I put a touch of it, which it makes everyone looks at my work and say, that's good.
Yes.
Yes. So this is how I do it. A new style, polished, rough, and natural. Polished and waxed. This is rust. The white gray part is rust and left like that. No sanding, no sandpaper, no polishing. And then just leaving the tool lines and texture to get the contrast in color and in texture to bring out the subject matter more powerful than just making it all black. I want it to stand out. I want it to speak. And the way it speaks is when you leave different textures on it. Like she does all that on the page, I like to leave it natural and waxed, polished, and polished. All those you find in out of these tools we have right here. That's all in short.
Okay, and if you've been here before when I've had Gedion, part of the celebration of fine art is the entire experience of art. You see it, you smell the paints and the firings and that going on. And one of my favorite sounds is to come in and hear tap, 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 tap. Gedion in the courtyard with his chisel. Every day is such a joyful noise. And what you create, all of you, is joyful expression for all of us to enjoy. So
Thank you.
Talk about tools for an hour, but I think we can go on. What we'd love to do, thank you guys so much. Do we have questions from anyone here or online? Because you all have shared such amazing information and passion with us. It's much appreciated. But any questions? Yes, please.
Where do you get your stone?
Gedion, where do you get your stone? We should have.
We coming back to the story which she was talking about. I started to come to America in 1998 after being picked by a promoter in Cornell in the Bay Area and one promoter here in Scottsdale. So as I was coming for 6 weeks, I will come here in Scottsdale, I do a show and go back. The next 2 months I come to Cornell, I do two months there, then I go back. So I decided the market and the demand is going high between America and Europe. So I decided to apply for a green card when I was here for a show. I went back home. Before I know it, the letter came in and said, we accept you with your family to come to America. Thank you, America, for that. The best decision I've ever made, and I'm happy here. However, to answer your question, all the stones I have, except maybe 2 pieces in my collection this year, are from Zimbabwe. So when I got my green card, I decided this month I'm going to tour the country from coin to coin, pick the ones which speaks to me, pick the ones I connect with. And this is not something I can send somebody to do for me. I have to do it myself because I am leaving the country. I'm going to be missing Zimbabwe, but the stone is going to call me and be part of my family. So I brought a 40-foot container of rocks from Zimbabwe to Scotland. Yes. So now I've started working with onyx from Meyer, North Arizona, and from honeycomb, which is quartz from Utah, pink marble, and those are the American stones I'm starting to infuse it together with rock. So if I get a big commission, in most cases I fly back home to do that. Because they want it in Springstone. They want it in Overstone. And I don't have it, those big ones here, but to go back. I was commissioned to do a life-size zebra for the Phoenix Zoo. I had to fly back to go to Zimbabwe to get the stone which fits in a life-size zebra, and I was allowed to work it there because I had to ask if that was okay. They said okay. So I had to hire 2 of my brothers, almost 11 hours a day. And we did it within a month, and I flew this zebra. If you happen to go to the Phoenix Zoo, there's a zebra in there. However, all zebra stones, yes.
Great question. And we've seen your art in
Atlanta,
yeah, airport. So we love seeing our artists scattered around the country. So yes, please.
I have a question for Trevor. I noticed like you do animals, but also in a lot of your paintings there's grass or wheat fields, whatever. Do you have a favorite brush that you use to get multiple strands of hair, or do you do each individual one with a thin?
It is the process of that.
Yeah, the question is, can you use different brush or multiple frame brush for fur and grass?
Right, and it is, and everything is done in stages. So what I do at the very beginning, you can see some of these. Where's my right now? These little fan brushes that I'll use on this. You see this, and you can see it all the way back there. This will lay down that beginning pattern, that would be like the foundational part of where the grass is going to be. And then we'll use at the very end of that, when I get down to the grass, using these watercolor brushes, really the watercolor technique is really, I mean, a lot of circumvent in there, a lot of motion. So if this has been turned up here, the lighter brush, and that with that kind of stroke will pull down those hot patterns. So kind of based on that structure that's already there, a lot of it's all based in first, you kind of see the foundation of their painting, and then those details that build in on top of that.
I'm seeing Trevor Swanson branded brushes in the future. Just saying, that's my vision.
I'll give you one. You don't have to use it, but I'll give you one.
What's that?
I'll give Jennifer one. You don't have to use it. It's just kind of cool. It's like, oh, this guy.
It can just be friends because they're not.
He's only allowed to give you a compliment.
Okay, I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
How much does your tool have? How much do your hammer weigh?
how much is,
Are they heavy or is it light?
I
It's
use,
so beefy and muscular.
here is what I will tell you. These are very big hammers.
Okay.
I have the big one for the big pieces. It's 4 to 5 kgs.
Okay.
That's the one I use to hammer big chunks off.
Okay.
And these are more, maybe 120.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's more of a light technique. You're not just banging at it.
No.
You don't break it off. You go from the very beginning with just a little light.
Yes, from the beginning I go with the big one, and then I go slowly as I go into the final stages of the piece. I use smaller hammers. Like there's one after this one which is smaller than this one for details. If I want to do details, but this is not basically for light work and not heavy.
It's like so many, it's like I come here thinking I know so many things, and then it's all totally bad. But watching you work, I had to do visions or pictures that all I've ever seen is classical drawing, kind of these big mouths just walking away, they're slathering marble. That's not at all what I've seen you do, and I wondered, is it all in the small tools?
This size of pieces, I will be using more of these hammer sizes. But for bigger pieces, I have a very heavy chisel, big chisels, and white chisels as well. So it comes down to when you're doing finals, then you use smaller. And also the energy changes from way up here when you're working to take off big pieces, as when you are now putting some details. This is mostly what I do here. It will be more details than studying the whole piece like that. Yes.
Great.
Yeah, I have a question for all three of you. Do you use the same approach when you start a new painting? By that I mean, for a sculpture. Gedion, do you sculpture top to bottom, bottom to top, left to right? Jen, do you start center out, you start left to right, right to left? Same for you, Trevor?
That's
Is each one different, or do you always follow the same approach, bottom up, top down?
I do background first with a sponge, and then top to bottom of the texture, the first layer, and come back with another layer. But I do the exact same, if it's a aspen or birch tree paint or poppy fill, it's exactly the same method.
Good question. Trevor?
My approach is starting, I can start with the finger, but the finger will give me where the other hand is going to be. So I have to knock all that, and the piece grows all together. Turning it around before, once I mark this, and I want to make on the hand and then on the face, and it grows all together at once. It's back and forth, and I turn it around and then work it. It has to be more proportional as it is growing. So I don't focus on, it doesn't matter I start with the bottom. It will always, if I'm here, I'm going to do everything. Or I start with the eye, and then it gives me where the other one is going to go, because I use, I forgot to show you this tool right here. It was this long. It was this long, but now it's like this. And we don't throw away what we say until it's finished. So this one is where I mark. If I put some lines on there, people say, do you sketch on the paper before you do it? No. It's straight from the stone to me and back onto the stone. I don't look on the picture. I don't know what it looks like. I only know it for my vision in my head. And then that's what I do. So it grows all together. Yes.
I work left to right, because normally, so you pinky to balance. I'm working with this fine little details, and my pinky to my balance. I don't stick this finger in the face. I start over here, left-handed, and I'll turn away this way. So you see, it's like a painting halfway through. If this is all really pretty done, and the rest of it still looks kind of rough, that's why I'm going this direction, working my way through. Let them go frustrated, just keep your finger until it's finished.
Not another layer, right on top of that.
Well, as I can see, art can be made by lots of different methods. Kathy?
I was wondering, the cacti, picture of cacti, is that watercolor in the background? Looks like watercolor.
Question is it?
That's acrylic paint applied with a sponge, actually, and even the clouds were applied with a sponge.
Wow.
And acrylic paint.
So you get a little bit more translucent feel to it.
Everything smooth is with a sponge, and then all textures, either outlines or those colored paint skins.
I love the arts too.
The little hearts.
The post palette art.
The post color color.
And you also have some great hand painted cards too. But again, this is a perfect representation of art. Speaks to all of us in different ways, and each artist has their own way of bringing it to us. And it really has been fun to delve into the tools. I mean, it's fun. I mean, I've often wanted to do a scavenger hunt, which it might happen one day, of identifying palettes around the text. Right? That could be really fun, because it's something you should look at as you absorb the whole experience here. It's not just what's on the wall, but look at the tools. Look at the, don't touch. But look at the palettes from which they work and how they set up the palettes and what the tools are. It's really fascinating, and it really helps bring it all together. Something you won't find anywhere else in discovering art. So hence our discovery series. So any last questions? Yes, Janice.
Trevor, do you take those home at night?
The ones that I use during the day, I will take them home at night first off.
Yes.
And we'll talk about that, unless they do get there, make a test of that.
Wow.
Just use a baby wipe, it does the same thing.
I was going to say I'd like to come home with you, but I didn't want to get the sound back.
Look at that, all my pens are very soft.
Between the dawn and olive oil, yeah. Very, very clever hands. Oh, Jennifer. No, like, no. Not so good. Yeah, there's a whole pampering your, or using baby wipes, you know, whatever it takes. And Gedion, you probably just take a nice good shower and get all that dust off.
Every time.
Yeah.
Every time, because I'll be looking white and all my eyes.
Yeah,
I can only see eyes on there, and that's it.
sometimes Gedion has gray hair at the end of the day.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm having gray hair, gray eyebrows and everything. And I have to make sure, just like you do to your brushes, I take care of my hands. I need some Vaseline before I go to bed after shower.
Yeah,
To make sure they are soft in there too.
the most important tools.
Yeah, that's right.
Hands, head and hands,
Hands.
and heart. All right, so, wow, you guys, thank you so much. Thank you for being here and thanks for joining and, oh, wow, appreciate you so much. And next week is the nature of art, art of nature, something like that. So, thank you all.
Thank you guys for coming. Thank you. Great job.